Chris, you remember back when wide receiver was considered the safe position in fantasy football?
Time is a flat circle, my friend.
Yeah, this position is more confusing than ever now heading into week 4. That's why we break down every matchup. Let's tell you who you should start and who you shouldn't. And there are still a few must-start receivers, although this list is a lot shorter than it used to be. But look, you got Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Romo Dunze, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. You fire them up. Before we start with the first matchup, I have a surprising stat for you. Only 70% of our viewers are subscribed. That means there are plenty of you who are watching who have yet to hit that subscribe button. We definitely appreciate if you do it. If you appreciate what we're trying to do to help you win in fantasy, go ahead and click that button. We're on the road to 100K. Help us get there. Well, let's start with the first matchup on Thursday night. The Seahawks at the Cardinals. I mean, let's face it, this Seahawks wide receiver room is basically JSN and a bunch of guys, although I guess we still have Cooper Kupp, and Torrey Horton has scored a couple of times. I mean, are either of these guys at least on the radar somehow, somewhere?
I mean, if you're desperate, sure. But, I mean, you got to be really desperate here.
Still no interest in Cooper Kupp. He's getting a few targets. Yeah, Torrey Horton has gotten the end zone, but you're going to chase that. The hope for a random touchdown once we get to the bye weeks, maybe, but too soon. Not this week. And then for the Cardinals, I mean, really just one guy to talk about, Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., huh? I thought this was going to be Kyler Murray holding him back, and it seems like Marv is holding himself back a little bit with some easy drops.
Yeah, it just feels like the same. It just feels like the same Cardinals offense that we saw last year, right? He's going to have games where he's great, and he's going to have weeks where he just completely disappears. Right now, the Cardinals dead last in throws to wide receivers. I mean, yeah, it's not all on Kyler. It's not all on here. It's everything, right? It's the whole situation here. Seahawks, not a smash spot. I'm only going to say Marvin Harrison is a flex. He's a good flex because we know he's got that upside, but he's also risky.
It feels like he's always risky. It feels like everything in this Cardinals offense is risky. Oh, look, James Conner being gone is not going to help this offense overall. The Seahawks have been really good on defense. So, yeah, this is not going to be a great spot for him. Only because he's basically the only show in town here as far as wide receivers, and he does have some potential. He's still a flex. Just don't love him this week. All right, on Sunday, we're going to start with the Vikings at the Steelers. Look, just to be transparent here, we went back and forth. We weren't even sure if Justin Jefferson is still a must-start no matter what, but we're going to keep him in there. He at least produced something last week. I think he'll be okay. But you got to wonder now, Jordan Addison should be back after that 3-game suspension. Does he factor in here, and then is Jalen Naylor's role now going to shrink?
Yeah, you don't have to even consider Jalen Naylor now. I will say, this is a good matchup. The Steelers allowing the 5th highest yards per out run, but this Vikings offense, it's even with Carson Wentz, it's like they don't need to throw the ball a lot. They have an elite defense now. They have a good running game now. I'm getting nervous about the entire passing attack here, so Jordan Addison, first game, coming off a suspension. Like, okay, maybe he could hit on a touchdown or something, but that's really about it. So just a flex.
Yeah, I think there's risk here that, like you said, he just doesn't get enough targets. Look, I know the Vikings defense has been great and the Steelers offense isn't great, so those concerns are still valid. Going forward, though, I think there will be some more opportunity here, but for now, Addison just a flex. Naylor, I mean, I didn't really consider him before this week anyways. Are you even still considering DK Metcalf? I mean, sure, he's got to be at least viable in some formats, but man, he's hardly done anything lately other than getting the end zone.
Living off touchdowns, right? And when I say living off touchdowns, I mean he's not completely a bust for your team because he's scoring a touchdown. This guy has 52 yards over the last 2 games combined, and now he's got to go against his Vikings defense with Aaron Rodgers looking like the Aaron Rodgers we expected to see, not the guy we saw in week 1. This is a tough matchup. I mean, he could score again and save you, but you are absolutely banking on this. I would like to sit DK Metcalf this week if I can. Same with Calvin Austin.
Well, true. Calvin Austin, no thanks. DK, I got to at least keep him as a flex because he does find the end zone even in tough spots, and he's the number 1 receiver here. And so I think I can't move him completely to the sit range. But I will tell you what, like you mentioned, that yardage, I don't feel a very good game here. And so let's take the lower on underdog. I mean, right now it's 50.5 yards. Like you said, he barely did that in the past 2 games. Now against the Vikings, go lower. You get a free pick just for signing up. You get a gimme pick. Right now it's Kyler Murray on Thursday night, just doing anything. You can pair it with this DK pick or any pick you like. And remember, if you sign up and use code ENDGAME when you sign up as a new customer, you also get not only a bonus match for your first deposit, but also a gimme pick. And you spend $5, you get $50 in bonus funds added to your account right away. All right, now Commanders at the Falcons. And you know, last week it was JD, the quarterback, we were worried about being out for the Commanders, and now it's going to be their top receiver, Terry McLaurin. This could get interesting because we still don't even know if JD is going to be back. So let's start with that. Terry McLaurin, uncertain, quote unquote, as of right now to play, but also hearing he's looking for a different opinion on that quad injury. That's not too reassuring.
No, that's never what you want to hear. Because if you are going to look for a second opinion, it means you did not like the first opinion. This sounds like very bad for Terry McLaurin. I really doubt he plays, and even if he somehow does, there's no chance I can put this guy in my lineup. And look, I think this has to move Debo to the solid start tier now because the target's got to go somewhere. They can't all go to Zach Ertz, running backs out of the backfield. I think Debo's got to be solid, and you know what? You might actually want to consider Luke McCaffrey in deeper leagues as a flex option. Not my favorite, but he had a pretty nice day with Terry out last week.
Yeah, look, for what it's worth, Mariota looked pretty good. That fumble aside, I mean, he was not a problem whatsoever. This Falcons defense did not exactly look great last week, although at the same time, they didn't give up a lot through the air, right? That wasn't the issue. It's not a great matchup here, but Debo's going to have to get targeted pretty heavily. So at this point, the way we are looking at Terry McLaurin right now, I don't care if he plays or not. I'm not risking it. He's a hard sit, even if he's ruled in. Debo has moved up to solid now because of that. I could consider flexing Luke McCaffrey, but I'd rather stash him, as I'll talk about on a different video. Now, if there's a team that wants to completely forget about last week, it's the Falcons. I mean, literally nothing on the scoreboard. How does this team going from looking so good in week 1, especially their quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., to looking like that? I mean, how concerned are you with this performance?
Yeah, I think you have to be concerned here. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, I will say the Commanders have not been great against wide receivers this year at all, but man, I need to see something from Michael Penix Jr. These last 2 games. Like, we give him a pass in week 2 because it was like, okay, Vikings, tough matchup. They didn't have to throw the ball, but he doesn't get a pass for last week. That was absolutely awful. I'm going to say Drake London, solid, but risky solid right now. And then Darnell Mooney, you want to flex him? Go ahead, but it's very risky.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I can't ignore what just happened, but I also can't ignore week 1. Penix looked great at the end of last year in his first couple of starts as a pro quarterback. He looked really good. I think this is a good bounce back spot for them. They're at home. This Commanders secondary is very suspect. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore is nothing close to the player that he used to be. I mean, teams actually pick on him now these days, and they got a Noah Igbinoghene from the Dolphins. I know firsthand how bad he is. This is not a good secondary. I'm going to actually say I'm firing up London in all formats. I think he could have a strong game here. He's getting the targets. He is top 10 in first read target share. Darnell Mooney come back hasn't impacted him. I was worried last week because JC Horn, and I didn't think it would be a great game for the Falcons. Didn't think it would be that bad. I think this is a get right spot for him. Remember AJ Brown, how bad he looked for 2 weeks and then what he did last week? I think it's going to be a similar situation for London.
Do you want to get advice from Pierre and myself at the tip of your fingertips? Start sit, waiver wire, trades, and more? Well, you can do all of this and more on our new app, Draft Lane. We have the ability to view your roster, waivers, and more to give you the right feedback to make the perfect choice. Download Draft Lane from the App Store or Google Play, or use these handy QR codes. And first-time users can use code ENDGAME to get 10 free credits and get your questions answered today.
All right, now we got the Chargers at the Giants. Give Malik Neighbors a passer last week. That was a really tough matchup. I still think you got to start him. Now, as far as the Chargers go, I mean, you not only are questioning Ladd McConkey, you're worried. You're freaking out about Ladd McConkey. Let's face it. He's number 3 in terms of fantasy points in his own offense. is this going to continue this way? I mean, is this just what we're getting this year? And then, I mean, honestly, I also got to wonder, how good do we have to feel about Quentin Johnston?
Yeah, I think you got to feel good about Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. I mean, these guys combined for 21 targets last week. Ladd McConkey had 7. At some point, you got to think Ladd's going to have a game here, right? He's too good. He's too talented, but who knows when it's going to be? Is it going to be this week against the Giants? I mean, this isn't like a horrible spot, but it's not a great spot. I think right now I just can only consider Ladd McConkey a flex. I'll say QJ and Keenan Allen, you have to consider both these guys solid. We were worried about QJ last week with Surtain. Sure, he didn't have a big game, but 10 targets? Yeah, these guys are way more involved. I think they're both solid. Ladd, just a flex.
That's exactly right. Again, it's not just fantasy points because touchdowns can make that difference. It's targets. Ladd is not getting more targets than either of those other two. You got to feel great about Keenan and QJ. You got to consider Ladd a risky flex. Speaking of risky flex, is Wan'Dale Robinson even that? I mean, we knew he wouldn't have a monster game, but I mean, he went back to looking completely irrelevant. Do you even keep him if you spend up on him on waivers?
If you spend up on him on waivers, yeah, you probably want to keep him, but I don't think I can start him this week. I mean, even if it's Jackson Dart, is that going to save Wan'Dale's value? I don't think so. I'm sitting him no matter what.
He will have some games from here on out, regardless of who the quarterback is. This isn't the week. Chargers a very good defense here, and who knows what the situation is going to be at quarterback. So you can keep Wan'Dale, but don't start him. All right, now Titans at Texans. Look, this Tennessee passing game also one that has been a little confusing because Calvin Ridley has not only not been the number one receiver, he's not really been fantasy relevant, just to be honest. Is this going to turn around? How worried are you about him? And then how good do you feel about the rookie, Alec Iomanor?
Well, you got to be worried about Calvin Ridley. This is really, really bad. There's just no way you can start Calvin Ridley right now. Like, I've gotten questions from people saying, like, can I drop Calvin Ridley for insert random wide receiver? Like, no, don't do that yet. It's too soon for that, but totally fine if you bench this guy. As far as the rookie, I mean, look, can he keep scoring? Maybe not. I'm going to say a flex start, a risky flex, because it's not like this guy is putting up, huge yardage here. If he doesn't score, you're going to wish you hadn't started him, but he's been scoring. Maybe he'll do it again.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm going to stick with the theme here. Target share matters. I mean, really, he's getting targeted. He just, for some reason, is choosing not to catch them. I'll say he's still a flex because maybe he turns this around, right? The opportunity could be there. It's not a good matchup, though, so he's only a flex. And same thing with Iomanor. I mean, he's a flex with some intriguing upside, but let's face it, we need more from this whole offense before we go any farther with any of these guys. Now, as far as the Texans go, I mean, if there's an offense that's been worse than the Titans, it is the Texans. Again, we debated as far as Nico Collins. I still think you got to start him. And as far as Christian Kirk, I mean, maybe he gets a little more involved this week, but you can't feel great about anything in Houston.
No, you can't feel great, but I mean, the targets were there for his first game, and look, I mean, they are still throwing the ball, so that's a plus, I guess, because they can't run the football. But what's the upside here, really? I mean, he's a floor flex play, and that's about it.
Could do something, but man, even against this Titans defense, you just got to wonder here. I think, honestly, this is going to come back down to C.J. Stroud. I mean, what is he going to be now from here on out? So for now, Christian Kirk, just a flex. Next, we got the Eagles at the Bucs. All right, so this is why you keep a guy like A.J. Brown in your starting lineup, right?
Yeah, I called him a strong start last week. He came through. Now, granted, that game felt a little weird. Like, it felt like the Eagles, you know what it feels like to me? The Eagles right now, like, they feel like they can just do the bare minimum to win games. And then last week, it was like, oh, we can't do the bare minimum to win this game. And then in the second half, they're like, okay, we're going to play our A game. And they came back and won that game, although they probably should have lost still. So there still is risk that they just do the bare minimum this week, especially if the Bucs are without Mike Evans and, can't get much going on offense. But A.J. Brown is too good to bench. He's got to be a strong start. And I'm still keeping Devonta Smith in the flex range. I know he scored, but I can't ignore what he did the first 2 weeks, which was almost nothing. And again, I do worry we're not going to see the Eagles be forced to go into the kind of offensive mode they went into last week, even against the Bucs. So AJ Brown, yeah, strong start still. Devonta Smith, still a flex for me.
Yeah, you know what? The accusations of coasting here, it's completely fair. I think that's exactly what we saw last week from Philly. And then they decided to put the gas pedal on. Then we saw different offense here. Look, at Tampa, this team will fight. I feel like they're going to have to at least, do something offensively. I'm still keeping AJ Brown as a strong start. I think I got to keep Devonta Smith as a solid start here because this Tampa secondary doesn't concern me. Now, as far as the Bucs go, it's ironic. Last week we entered the weekend worrying about Emeka Egbuka. Was he going to be a full participant? Was he going to play? He's fine. And then coming out of the game now, we're worried about Mike Evans because you're not going to have him at least this week. It's going to be multiple weeks. Not good. That hamstring injury going to bother him. So no Evans. Egbuka seems fine. And then now, just to make things fun, maybe Chris Godwin plays, maybe he doesn't. So what do you do here?
Well, whether Godwin plays or not, I'm sitting Godwin. I think it's just too risky here. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of arguments like they need Godwin, and they do, but you can't put this guy out there 50, 60, 70, 80% of the snaps first game back after doing nothing for almost a year. So I think it's too risky for Godwin. Plus, this is not a great spot against the Eagles. Egbuka, I mean, he has to be very solid now, and I would say borderline strong. I mean, yeah, he might get a decent amount of Quinyon Mitchell, but I don't think he's going to be shadowed here. And they got to throw it to somebody. It's going to be all Egbuka here. So very solid start, borderline strong start.
Yeah, so start with Godwin. I've got to think if they feel he's good enough to play, he's at least a flex option. Going to be careful here, but this obviously depends. If they say, well, he'd be on a snap count or something like that, okay, fine. Like, I'm out. But I can't say I like him less than some other wide receivers this week that I've got as flex options. Feel they wouldn't put him at risk if he wasn't good to go. And of course, they do need him. As far as Egbuka, it's interesting because, his separation numbers and all that is not great so far this year, but he is making the most of his targets. He catches it when it's in his vicinity. The contested catch rate and all of that is high. So I'm not going to worry too much about those metrics. And it's only been 3 games. So look, if Egbuka is out there, we already know Evans is out. We're not sure about Godwin. I think he's a solid start. If Godwin is out, I'll just bump him up to a strong start because the target share will be massive. All right, Panthers and Patriots. Prepare to be frustrated by these receiver rooms. Let's start with the Carolina side. Carolina, big win for them, and yet none of these receivers had big games. Not even Ted McMillan.
No, and now the Patriots, and the question remains Christian Gonzalez to the Patriots. I mean, it sounded like he was close last week. Got to think he's probably going to play this week. Look, Ted McMillan is going to have a big game. When is it going to be? I don't know, but the usage is there. The connection isn't. Not sure it's going to be this week against the Patriots, but I think he's still solid. Hunter Renfrow, no thank you.
I thought it would be last week, and I don't think it will be this week. On the road against the Patriots, not a great spot here, but McMillan still has that upside, so he's still solid. Yeah, Hunter Renfrow, obviously fooled us all. What's weird, it's not even that they changed the way they approach things. I mean, Bryce Young still loves the slot receiver. For some reason, after Renfro's big game, they decided they're going to rotate him with, Bryson Tremaine. Yeah, so Renfro out on the field less? No way. You can just sit him. All right, then there's the pass receivers who have taken a step back and a backseat to Hunter Henry, the tight end, and the running backs. And do you want any part of this receiving core?
No, I'm good. I mean, Kayshon Boutte, I thought last week maybe it's the Steelers. Now he's got to go J.C. Horn. No, thank you. Stephon Diggs looks very limited right now. I'm sitting both.
Yeah, I wonder how much they'll even need to throw the ball here in this game. I mean, this kind of reeks of a low score, but I'd say Boutte does have at least that touchdown upside. I think he's a flex possibility, just not a great one, and I think Diggs barely hangs on as a flex option. Now we got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. This sounds like a colossal mismatch here, but I will say Saints receivers getting target volume, and maybe there's the potential for some garbage time production here.
I mean, there's potential for garbage time production, but what is the production? Like, Chris Olave is an absolute PPR scam right now. This guy has not topped 57 yards in a game. This guy averaging like 5 yards per catch. Yes, he's getting a ton of catches, but they're like empty catches here. This is like when people argue like PPR should go away. This is like the poster child, right? Chris Olave, being a wide receiver too, despite having no impact on the game whatsoever. You can flex him. He's probably a high-end flex, but there's no real ceiling here. It's just a high floor. And then Rashid Shaheed, maybe he scores, maybe he doesn't. He's a boom-bust flex.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games the Saints are going to have to throw it 40-plus times. And so I get it. Olave isn't great, but look, he could actually score one of these days and make a big play. I think just because his target volume is higher than almost all these other flex options I put out there, I'm going to put him the low end of the solid tier, and then Shaheed, again, just a risky flex. And the Bills still throwing out a lot of receivers. What do you make this wide receiver room?
Well, I'm going to say both Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman are flexes, and then Josh Palmer not. No, thank you. But I'm actually going to prefer Keon Coleman to Khalil Shakir this week, and here's why. The Saints are allowing the 5th fewest points to the slot. Alontae Taylor is by far their best corner, their nickel corner there. They're allowing the 3rd most points to the wide receivers on the outside. I think this is going to be a better Keon Coleman game than Shakir game. But that being said, I can't consider either more than a flex.
Well, we'll start with Palmer. No, we've actually seen his route rate drop 3 straight weeks. He's getting less involved as the season goes on. I think Palmer doesn't need to be held in fantasy leagues. I'm going to flip it here. Keon Coleman, each of the last 2 weeks after that outlier week 1, 3 catches for 20-something yards. This is his role. He will once in a while get a catch, and that's it. I just don't think there's enough here because the Bills are going to work the middle of the field. It's Dalton Kincaid and it's Khalil Shakir that lead the way. I think Shakir is solid because he is still technically the number 1 receiver in this offense, and Coleman isn't. Browns taking on the Lions in week 4. You got the sun god. You are grateful. You start him. You're probably not too happy if you have either Browns wide receiver at this point. And now we're in Detroit.
Yeah, I don't even know. What are we doing here? Are you really starting one of these guys? No.
Yeah, upon further review here, I thought, well, you know what? They're going to have to throw the ball a lot, flex options, but, Joe Flacco is probably still the quarterback as far as we know here. Let's just not do this anymore. Just sit Browns receivers. And then for Detroit, we still got Jameson Williams there to talk about, but what do we say here? J-Mo hasn't had the impact that we thought he would going into this year.
No, he hasn't. And look, the start of that Ravens game, he had a couple big catches, and I was like, oh, maybe we're starting to see something here. And then it was like, where did Jameson Williams go in this game? So he is what he is for me probably every single week. He's a flex. He's got upside, but this is not a great matchup against this Browns defense. So flex, but kind of risky.
Well, I will say Detroit back at home, their offense is always better here. And the Browns, yeah, that's a legit defense. There are no questions anymore about that. Legit defense. But despite last week, again, still, they can give up some points to wide receivers. I'm going to say J-Mo, I can feel at least good enough to call him solid this week. Our Jags at 49ers, not even sure what to feel anymore about BTJ. I mean, it's like you don't want to just sit him, but you don't really feel good starting him anymore. And then I don't even know what to feel about Travis Hunter, the wide receiver who now looks a lot more like a defensive back.
Well, Travis Hunter is easy for me. I mean, I said 2 weeks ago, this guy's playing more defense than offense. You can't start him. Nothing's changed. You cannot start Travis Hunter. Like one highlight reel catch where he breaks an ankle and runs for a little bit is not helping your fantasy team. BTJ, just a flex this week. This is not a great matchup. I mean, the 49ers giving up the 5th fewest points to outside wide receivers. Like, this Jags offense does not look like it. Liam Cohen does not look like the answer. Trevor Lawrence does not look like the answer. I don't know how we got here, but BTJ is just a flex.
BTJ is, as of right now, a risky flex. I mean, sure, he will still break those big plays. We need more. And then Travis Hunter, look, this is why I said repeatedly, I didn't move off of this, that I was not drafting Travis Hunter where he was going in fantasy because he belongs in the secondary, right? It just makes more sense. He's more valuable as a DB, and it's just harder to learn that position, so it made sense. That's why they started him more at receiver. Easier to do that than cornerback. We've seen his targets and his snaps go down every week at the wide receiver position. Don't be surprised if it continues. Now in San Francisco, not sure if Brock Purdy is going to be back behind center this week, but even so, Ricky Pearsall has looked great 2 out of 3 weeks. Juwan Jennings, still don't know. No idea if this guy ever is going to play or not. So what do you make of this situation?
Yeah, I think if Jennings plays this week, he is solid, though. Jags allowing the second most points to outside wide receivers. I kind of feel like we're going to see Brock Purdy, right? It seemed like he was close last week. I feel like we're probably going to see Purdy, although we don't know. And then Ricky Pearsall, I'm also just going to say solid, but I will say if Jennings is out again, he moves up to strong.
Yeah, I will say this. I'll probably just keep Pearsall as a strong play this week. Even if Jennings does play, don't know exactly how effective he's going to be, but it's the Jaguars. You got to love it. All right, so Pearsall for me is strong. And Jennings, if he does play, you got to assume he's good to go. He's got that big playability. Then he'll slot in as a solid receiver. Let's talk Colts and Rams. All right, so Indy's doing it, right? They keep doing it. Daniel Jones, I think, is legit. We have to say this. Michael Pittman has been legit. You just not move this guy out of your lineup until further notice?
I don't see how you can. If you take out that week 2 matchup where he had to face a ton of Pat Surtain, this guy's been really good this year, and the Rams defense doesn't scare me. He's solid. Josh Downs, he's an afterthought. He's a sit.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Downs, A.D. Mitchell, and then Alec Pierce was injured last week. We don't even think about those guys. That shows that Pittman is clearly the number one receiver here in this offense. I don't know if this is a big game for him. The Rams haven't really given up too many points. That defense is really good. I think they're going to put some pressure on Daniel Jones. This is the best defense they will have faced since Denver. So I feel like Pittman is a high flex option. I'm just not feeling a big game. And then for the Rams, of course, Puka. You don't question Puka. You don't really question Devontae Adams these days either. Do you think he has a big game here after not having a great week 3?
I do. Look, I said I got him right in week 1. I got him right in week 2. I guess I kind of got him wrong last week because he got very lucky where he scored a long touchdown where he got matched up with safety Reed Blankenship. But outside of that, Quinyon Mitchell absolutely shut him down as I expected him to. But guess what? There's nobody on the Colts that can shut down Devontae Adams, and this guy is getting insane usage. I know everybody's freaking out about Puka right now, but Devontae Adams is actually somehow getting even more insane usage than Puka. This is a strong start this week.
Yeah, got to feel great about Devontae Adams. Imagine what he would do if he wasn't paired up with a guy like Puka who gets so many targets, so many first read targets. I think the matter of whether Adams is a strong start or just a solid start, it almost doesn't matter. If you have Adams, pretty much I'm throwing him in my lineup. I just don't know exactly how much. The Rams are going to have to pass this week, but I think he's a high-end solid pick. All right, now Bears at Raiders. Yeah, Rome Odunze, if you got him, why are you even questioning it? He's the number one receiver there. He is a must start. DJ Moore, not so much. Luther Burden has now at least entered the conversation as well. So how do we feel about these guys?
I think DJ Moore is solid this week, but risky solid. No, this isn't as good a spot as he had last week, but this is still a good matchup. Look, Caleb Williams is not going to throw for 4 touchdowns again, but DJ Moore, I think, is involved enough. Low end, solid here. And Luther Burden, I'm not chasing that flea flicker, 3 catch, 2 touchdown game. Like, come on, I'm not chasing that.
All right, well, yeah, Burden, most of it was on that one play, but he still ended up with over 100 yards. And the thing is, he's getting more involved. We're seeing the route participation, the actual targets, meaning he's actually getting targeted now. It's just going to get better, so I think he's at least a flex with upside because he can do what you saw. I'm not feeling so great about DJ Moore in what was a total smash spot against the Cowboys. Again, it feels like they're just kind of trying to find ways to get him involved, which makes me think is he's not just getting involved naturally as a receiver, and Rome Odunze is because he's getting so many first read targets. I feel like DJ Moore at this point is just a risky flex, even in a good spot like this. And if you thought Luther Burden's outburst last week was surprising, how about Trey Tucker? Okay, so we've seen this. We saw the Wan'Dale Robinson game, the Troy Franklin game. This happens. What do you make of Trey Tucker and his basically week-winning game that helped nobody win because nobody had Trey Tucker in their lineup?
Are we just we're not even gonna, Jacoby Myers doesn't exist anymore. We're just gonna talk about Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker, you can flex him if you want. Like, he does have 17 targets over the last 2 weeks, but this is a much, much better spot for Jacoby Myers this week. The Bears are allowing the third most points to slot wide receivers. Jacoby playing 65% of his routes out of the slot this year. I think Jacoby Myers is a very solid start this week, and Trey Tucker, a flex, but don't expect what you got last week.
Yeah, I mean, you just know Jacoby Myers is still a solid start. He's still the number one guy here. Like, I've talked a lot about Trey Tucker as well. He's getting targeted. This wasn't just a random game, and at the same time, we're not chasing it. But look, you can throw him in the flex and know it's the Bears defense. He's not going to be a total flop, I don't think. All right, Ravens at Chiefs. You know, this is one of those matchups where you think, hey, you got anybody going in this game, you're pretty happy. Not so much these days. So Baltimore's turning into one of those teams. It's kind of a headache because just when you think you have it figured out, you don't. Zay Flowers was one of the top receivers in all fantasy for a couple of weeks, and then, of course, did nothing on Monday night. And then, you know, everybody dropped Rashad Bateman. So, of course, he scores and has a big game. Let's not even get started on Mark Andrews and all that. But, okay, Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, maybe Rashad Bateman, Devontae Walker. Take your pick. What are you doing?
Well, I'm not starting those other guys. Like, we have games like this. I mean, we've seen this already this year, you know, like random Troy Franklin game, the Wan'Dale Robinson game. Like okay, not every receiver is going to go off every single week. Like, we were all worried about Sutton in week 3 because, like, oh, they spread the ball out in week 2. And then what did we see in week 3? It was like all Courtland Sutton again. I think it's going to go back to being all Zay Flowers here. It is a Chiefs. It's a tough defense. They just shut down Neighbors, but this is Lamar Jackson, not Russell Wilson. I still think Zay Flowers is a solid start. He's got too much upside for me to bench.
Yeah, I think the only receiver you would consider here is still Zay Flowers. And look, there's concern here. He disappears sometimes. I don't think it's even his own fault. They'll just do this, right? They'll go a different direction. But despite the fact it's a really tough matchup, they've got a legit corner in Trent McDuffie. This is one of those games where you feel like they're going to get Flowers involved, right? In these tough matchups, that's when Baltimore usually leans on their studs. So, yeah, I got to keep him in the solid range as well. And then probably the bigger headache is the Chiefs here. Still no Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy, maybe he plays this week. Hollywood Brown, maybe he decides to catch a pass this week. I think Juju Smith-Schuster was their leading receiver last week for most of the time. And then, now we got to talk about Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah, let's start with Worthy. I still think if Worthy plays, he's solid. He's risky, solid, but you just said it. Like, the Chiefs need Xavier Worthy out there. They need somebody they can depend on. So I think if he plays, solid, risky, but solid. Hollywood, no, I'm not doing it. Juju, no, I'm not doing it. I will say Thornton, I've mentioned him for a couple weeks now. Like, hey, this is a home run flex play if you want to take it. This guy is like the new MVS, except he can actually catch the football. So, yeah, look, you're looking for a home run. Maybe you're in a deep 14, 16 team league and you need a home run in the flex. This guy could do it.
Well, I like to just say it's the same thing as Baltimore. The only guy I would be interested in is Worthy if he plays, and he does have a legit chance this week. But even then, it's still a risky flex. Risk he gets re-injured. Risk he doesn't get enough target share here. Just risk overall in this offense. Again, this does not look like the same Chiefs team at all. And if Worthy doesn't play, I think Thornton is certainly worth a flex. All right, Packers at Cowboys. Both these teams missing their top receiver. We know Jaden Reed has been out, and now CeeDee Lamb already ruled out for this week and could be another game. So let's break this one down. We know you got options in Green Bay here. Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, and maybe Dontavian Wicks.
Yeah, look, I know Matthew Golden didn't break out last week, and for some reason the Packers dinked and dunked against the Browns, and maybe that's just because they're facing the Browns. I don't know, but this is the Cowboys. I mean, they can let it rip this week, right? Throw it down the field, do whatever they want, basically. This could really be the Matthew Golden monster game. I mean, I'm not ready to say it's going to happen, but look, he ran the second most routes. He tied for the team lead in targets. Can't go crazy here, but I think this could be a solid game for Matthew Golden. He also led in receiving yards, by the way. Romeo Doubs, come on. Maybe he scores because it's the Cowboys. Okay, fine. If you want to flex him, you can. Wicks, same thing. If you want to flex him, you can because it's the Cowboys. But really, I just want Golden here.
Well, don't want to take it too far with the rookie. I mean, it's like with McMillan last week. Thought he could smash, he didn't. It's here, right? The situation is here for them. I think both Dobbs and Golden have to be solid picks. This is the Cowboys secondary. They're horrendous. They just made Caleb Williams look like an MVP. Give up a big game to Luther Burden. How can you tell me that Golden can't have a big game? I like both these players. Wicks just doesn't get enough action here, so I don't have to consider him. And we know the Cowboys are going to need to find a way to replace CeeDee Lamb. It looks like their answer to that is basically just throw it to tight end Jake Ferguson. I think the only receiver really going to consider here is still just George Pickens, right?
Yeah, and look, it should be like he should have smashed last week. This should be another smash spot. But you know what I'm really wondering about George Pickens now is, like, is this that guy just going to be in the all hype Hall of Fame? Like one of those guys where it's like, oh, he's so talented. It should be, but it just never happens. Like, even on that touchdown pass, I was watching it live, and it's like, it felt like George Pickens quit on the play, and then all of a sudden he saw the ball there, and because he's so athletic and so gifted, he made that one-handed catch. But it's like, is this guy even playing hard half the time? Like, does he just quit out there during games? Like, I'm not even, like, joking here. I really am wondering this right now. So this is his chance. Time to step up. This is it, but it's the Packers this week. This is a tough matchup, much tougher than last week. I'm only going to say solid and risky solid this week.
Yeah, I mean, you figure the targets have to be there. The opportunity's there, but this is a brutal matchup. Look, and you're not the only one. Pickens, we've heard it before. Whispers thought, going to Dallas, this will, be the perfect situation for him. But I don't know. The focusing issues don't seem to have gone away. So I can't move him as anything lower than solid because of the potential here and the target share. But yeah, just not feeling that this will be a big game. And then the first of two Monday night games, Jets and Dolphins. Got to wonder if there's a big game in any of these receivers. Well, I bet Garrett Wilson could come through with one as he faces that Miami secondary.
Yeah, this is a great spot for Garrett Wilson. I think just honestly, like, from here on out, Garrett Wilson is just a strong start outside of maybe the absolute toughest matchups. He's not always going to go off, but like he just always has the potential to go off. You can't bench Garrett Wilson. He's getting incredible usage as far as like route participation, targets per route run. I mean, among the top wide receivers. I know it's Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields, and he's going to be somewhat volatile, but just too much upside to ever bench. Got to be a strong start this week.
Everything you said and then some. I mean, didn't matter. I don't think we even have to wait and see who's the quarterback here. They're going to force feed the ball to Garrett Wilson because they really have nobody else out there to throw the ball to. So yeah, Garrett Wilson, especially against this Dolphins secondary, practically a must start this week. All right, then the Dolphins, this gets a little trickier here because we've seen signs of life. They've reached the end zone, right? These guys are still alive and barely hanging on. This Jets defense hasn't been great either. So how do you feel about Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle?
I mean, you cannot feel great. Yes, they both scored last week, but they both had under 50 yards. Like, this offense is just, short, everything just short underneath. No shots down the field. Tyreek Hill probably going to get a good amount of sauce. I mean, Jalen Waddle might even get a good amount of sauce this week. I still have to keep them in the flex range, like risky flexes. If they don't score, you're probably going to regret starting them, but they could score.
Yeah, so interesting here. Tyreek Hill, figure he's still got some big game potential in him. I don't think he's the sole problem here. Look, so the Jets haven't given up a 100-yard game to a receiver yet, but they've given up an 80-yard receiver in 3 games, right? And so I think Tyreek Hill will have one of those good, not great games. And then Jalen Waddle is just going to live on the flex bubble until further notice. And week 4 ends with the Bengals at the Broncos. All right. Didn't take long for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to move from must start to what have I done? All right. I mean, we can't predict injury. We didn't think Joe Burrow would be out, but we also did not think Jake Browning would look like an absolute train wreck here. Are you considering benching Jamar Chase?
Well, this is easily going to be the toughest one of the entire week. I'm not looking forward to this because on the one hand, it's Jamar Chase, but on the other hand, it's Jake Browning and potentially Surtain Shadow here. Like, oh man. I'm going to say solid here, but I'm not feeling good about Jamar Chase this week. I know, like, Quentin Johnston had an okay game against Surtain, and I think Surtain might be a little nicked up right now, so maybe he's not 100%, but still, you can't feel great here. Solid, but only because it's Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, no chance.
T. Higgins is an easy no. I mean, easy. Jamar Chase, I agree. I can't, and it's not because of the name, and we're not looking at last year's stats. It's Jamar Chase. He gets the ball in his hands. He can do something with it, and so don't expect a big game, but at the same time, this is going to be tricky. This is one of those things where it's going to be Jamar Chase or whoever. It really depends on whoever your other option is. You could consider benching him. And should not have benched Courtland Sutton last week. Came through with a monster game. I mean, obviously, Troy Franklin is not taking over as the number one guy there. But now, he goes from what really was a tough matchup last week to the Bengals this week.
Yeah, this is another guy. Just almost ignore the matchup in most cases, right? Because you just know, like, or ignore what happens in those random games where other guys get involved. Like, Courtland Sutton's the number one. He's going to be the number one. He could always score. He's a good player. Against the Bengals this week, got to be a strong start. And then I'll say Troy Franklin, he did run the second most amount of routes. He was close. I mean, Bo Nix missed some huge throws in that game. It could have been a way bigger game for pretty much everybody. So I'll say Franklin's still worth a flex, but Sutton's strong.
It's always tough to get read on an offense where some parts have changed after 1-2 games, but now after 3 games, what we've seen is that Sutton not just producing as the top receiver in Denver, but he's got a 30% first read percentage, and that's up there with those elite number one receivers. And so Courtland Sutton is still going to be a solid start every week. I don't think I'll ever put him lower than that again. And this week against the Bengals, he is a strong start. Troy Franklin, on the other hand, look, I still think he's a good flex option, even though obviously he didn't come through with a big game. I thought it was interesting watching that he got targeted in the end zone, and then also that same drive right in front of the end zone. It doesn't count as an end zone target. He was like in the 5-yard line. They're still going to him. He is still getting involved in this offense. And so I think he is due at some point for another big game. I can't guarantee it'll be this week, but don't just completely ignore him either. All right, that does it for wide receiver. Everything you need to know for week 4. Of course, you got questions, you can ask us on the live streams, on the Draft Lane app, and you need help at all the other positions for Start Sit. It's in the week 4 playlist.